a Tundra Mirror, because I have seen these guys in action before, and they both have Stoneforge Mystics in play. Darin Minard, part of the Oklahoma traveling crew with Will Craddock and Tyler Lytle, playing Blue-White Stoneblade against Michael Hetrick, who has won an open series with this deck, Esper Stoneblade, with a small dip of red normally for Red Elemental Blast. As we cut into this game, we see Darin firing up a Mirish's Factory. You see Geist of St. Trapped and an Angel coming in, and it looks like he might be a little bit ahead this game also.
That would be an understatement, Cedric.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, thankfully, Michael's up a game, so it looks like we might get a game 3 regardless of the result of this one. I mean, regardless of how dominating his board position is. But, yeah, Geist of St. Trapped is a card we saw in the prior match when Zvi and Joe Bernard were playing, and it looked very important because, you know, it's a very aggressive threat, and there's really not a lot of answers to it. But one thing that Tom Martell brought up was there are ways to just block it, you know? Lingering Souls is still effective against it. Snapcaster Mage held off Geist St. Trapped for a couple of turns we saw. You see a Mishra's Factory in play. So, you know, Geist not nearly as devastating as it is in the Blue-White Mirror in Standard.
Sure.
But again, I think the fact that there's a Geist in play and a Stoneforge Mystic that can put in a Batter Skull, I believe, in his hand, looks like a reasonable position for Darin.
Yeah, but Hetrick is going to try to catch up here. He is at 10 life, but Batterskull is going to come into play here. So you're going to see him reach out for a Germ Token, going to suit that bad boy up. You see Darin's hand. He has a Surgical Extraction and a Batterskull of his own, so we might see a little bit of life gain and go back and forth here.
So it looks like Darin drew a Snapcaster. Not sure what's in his graveyard.
I think I see there, and I'm not 100% positive, but I feel like I see, Osip, a Disenchant.
Really?
I think that's the white card I see in his graveyard right now. And scanning Darin's deck list,
There are 2 Disenchants in
yes,
his
sir. It's the old school art.
Old school Disenchant. If that's the case, this could be a pretty good turn for Darin. Maybe he's afraid of a Spell Pierce.
Yeah, we know Michael has multiples of those in his hand. You know, he has to consider the ramifications of just doing that versus maybe just activating Stoneforge Mystic and just putting a Batterskull of his own into play to basically trump or at least work on the same level as Hetrick's. And so you are going to see that activation. Batterskull is going to come into play. You're going to see a Germ Token come in as well.
I mean, you could have seen. Oh, so it looks like our director's saying it's a Ice Age Source.
Okay. All right. We'll see who's right here, Mr. Director.
It'd be interesting if Darin actually used his Surgical Extraction targeting the Brainstorm just to get a look at Michael's hand. Maybe then he would have gone for it.
Little information.
Yeah.
You see,
and again, getting rid of all the Brainstorms isn't the worst thing in the world.
Certainly not.
Obviously, he wants to go after Lingering Souls, but Michael only has 1 Lingering Souls in his deck, which obviously Darin doesn't know.
Yeah.
But had he known that, I think going after a Brainstorm is probably a pretty good play, especially because it gives you the information to find out, can I go for the Disenchant or the Plowshare? Because obviously, Snapcastering back a Plowshare to deal with the Germ Token is still really good because you're able to attack that turn.
You see Hetrick really considering his options here. He is a rather methodical player when he is playing these blue-white decks, but this is how Michael has won over his rather short career playing Magic in both Standard, I mean, be it Modern or even be it in Legacy. You always see him playing blue-white decks with that do have counter Magic, permission, and a lot of interaction. This is where he really does feel at home, as we have seen him make the finals of Invitational when we were in Indianapolis. We saw him win when we were in Los Angeles with this deck at the Comic-Con. As you see, he's going to play a Jace the Mind Sculptor here.
So if the Jace does resolve, which we know well, you'd imagine he would bounce the Germ Token here and attack with his own Batterskull.
Yeah. You'd think that's where the turn would begin. You see Darin considering his options.
Michael might want to Fate Seal to make sure that, because if he Fate Seals here, then Darin can't attack with the Geist of St. Trapped if he does have an answer for the Germ Token.
Sure.
Michael has to assume that Darin doesn't have an answer for the Germ Token. Otherwise, he might have gone for it last turn. But
it's so interesting in this matchup with how back and forth it is, because, you know, for Hetrick here, it's very difficult for a player to just just tap 4 mana on their turn and just go Jace.
Yeah, and
do you have an answer, or what's going to happen now?
Especially with 2 spell pierces in his hand, he was thinking, do I have time to do this? Especially with the Geist in play, the Angel token's always going to be able to attack in and kill the Geist. So, is it worth just bouncing a Germ token?
Yeah, like imagine if Darin right now had Disenchant in his hand.
Yeah,
what a disaster would be for Hetrick.
It'd be a disaster. And the thing here is, Hetrick's able to bounce a Germ token, deal with it for a turn, attack with his own Germ. And he's basically assuming, well, if he didn't have a removal spell for my Germ token last turn, he probably doesn't. The odds are he's not going to draw one this turn. So even if he really does want to kill my Jace, he's going to have to attack with his Geist, and I can just eat up his Geist at St. Draft and deal with the threat. So it's not that bad for me.
But we do see everything does work out for Hetrick that turn. Bounces the Germ token, gets in with his Batterskull, gets himself some more life. As you see, Minard does draw a Flooded Strand for the turn. His hand has Snapcaster Mage, Surgical Extraction, and now a Flooded Strand. And now he's certainly got some decisions to make as well here, Osip, because yes, he can attack with that Geist of St. Traft. He can take care of that Jace with the Angel token, but he's going to have to lose Geist to do that. But it looks like
he could equip.
We're going to see probably an equip and make it into a 6/6.
Yeah, and I like this play.
So Batterskull, not just a 4/4. In most cases, it wins its games as a 4/4 Germ token. A lot of people forget that, this card does a lot of other things, which is why it's so gosh darn good. You can equip it over to a Geist of St. Traft, make it a 6/6, get yourself some life back, maybe take care of that Jace with an Angel, and I think that's what we're going to see here.
Yeah, and we know that Michael's hand is mostly just permission right now. Yep. So this is a great situation for Darin because 6/6 untargetable, not many answers to it.
And even more difficult here is that 6/6 untargetable beats a 4/4 Germ token in a fight.
Yeah, and it's going to put an Angel token into play, and it doesn't have to tap to attack. Yep. So it could make short work of Michael.
As Hetrick does draw a Polluted Delta for the turn again. You guys do see multiple Spell Pierces in his hand right now, and that's a card that's so interesting in these matchups because it goes from super effective to super poor depending on the turn of the game and the situation of the game you're in.
I think we're about to see an interesting play here. I'd expect a Surgical Extraction in response to the target, but we know that Michael has a Spell Pierce.
So we do see Darin is going to cast Surgical Extraction. We'll bring that up on the screen for you guys, using Phyrexian Mana to cast that, but Spell Pierce is going to take care of it. Wondering what Hetrick is targeting here as he's going to sacrifice Polluted Delta. Really is, last turn we thought that Minard was behind.
Yep.
This turn, now it's Hetrick that's behind.
Well, I thought the play by Hetrick was a little aggressive, just tapping out for Jace there. We saw it in the last match where when you're a little too aggressive, the game can turn on a dime. I like being able to cast Snapcaster and cast Brainstorm, just because you kind of want to maximize those cards. Tom Martell was bringing this up last time. He had, because of the fact that he did this turn, he was forced to play his sack land. So now he's not able to shuffle away any of the cards in his hand, and he had a terrible Brainstorm.
Yeah, you saw.
And this matchup, coming down to maximizing your Brainstorms, Martell brought it up last time. It's really important.
Yeah, you saw a Brainstorm of Island, Tundra. Could not be a worse Brainstorm in that situation. Hetrick's hand of Snapcaster Mage plus Spell Pierce to go along with that Tundra. He is quote-unquote Brainstorm locked right now. His next 2 draw steps are very, very poor, and you see how far ahead Minard is here. But now Minard has to consider his options again of, do I want to send in this guy? Says, some trading can happen now. He can. There can be a double block here, but again, we do know that Darin does have that Snapcaster Mage in his hand, and our director, genius that he is, he was right. It is a Swords of Plowshares, not a Disenchant.
Smart man.
Hey, we don't pay him the big bucks for nothing, baby. So Swords to Plowshares is going to blow up this combat. Snapcaster Mage is going to bite the dust. Darin's going to gain some more life, deal some damage to the Angel token, and now I think, Osip, he is, I believe, and I've been wrong before and will be wrong again, probably too far ahead for Michael to catch up.
Yeah, if we didn't know that Michael had 2 lands on top of his deck, I'd say anything can happen. But again, with 2 lands on top, being at 7 and the Geist with the Battleskull on it, there's just way too much pressure coming from Darin's side of the board.
So now you do see Hetrick considering his options here, as he can pick up the Batterskull, play it again through Stoneforge Mystic to, stave off a little bit of beats here. But, you see Hetrick's life total at 7. He is just going to pass the turn back. Minard's going to untap. He's going to draw. he draws a Swords to Plowshares.
So he can respond to the Batterskull activation even.
One hell of a draw there by Minard.
And you could tell that last turn, Michael was tempted to activate the Batterskull and then do it on his turn because of being afraid of maybe a Swords to Plowshare. But either way, drawing a Swords is going to be good for Darin no matter what. So you can't really fault Michael.
So now you see Darin fires up the Miniatures Factory. He's sending in with the creatures here. Stoneforge Mystic, a bit of a coward. That's going to stay at home for right now. But you do see a big attack here from Minard, basically saying this is lethal, and I drew the perfect card for the turn. As you're going to see Hetrick here, he's going to activate Stoneforge Mystic. In response, he's going to return the Batterskull. So it's very proper ordering here. That's going to resolve. You're going to see that come into play. Germ Token will come in, and we'll see if Minard's going to let him block here. I would be surprised if he did.
Well, it's effectively the same thing, right? You're going to make him gain 4 life no matter what.
Sure, but this way he can't block, which is the difference. So like he can't get in front of the 6/6.
No, he's going to plow his own creature, so the life gain doesn't happen.
Oh, okay. Sure, I mean, if that's what he's going to do, that'll get the job done as well.
Now,
if he plows the Germ Token, Michael goes up to 11, and then he takes 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Yeah.
So either way, the Swords is a lock. So that's going to end the game. Minard Hetrick is going to go to game number 3 here, and we have a lot of 1-0s and 2-0s in the sideboards to go over here. We'll start with Hetrick's because he's going to be on the play this game. Most of you have it.
Well, we saw Spell Pierce. We saw multiple Spell Pierce. He only has 1 in his main, so we know he boarded in the Spell Pierces.
Yep.
I'm not sure I love Spell Pierce in this matchup. I think that, Martel brought it up where the cards that really matter are Stoneforge Mystic. And it didn't really seem like Spell Pierce would have been too huge, especially later in the game. I think that Supreme Verdict is a reasonable card to come in because, again, Geist Saint Traft can be tough to deal with. I like having 1 Supreme Verdict that's sort of a card that you can draw to give you outs. The Tension Sphere could be pretty good. Surgical Extraction, we saw that from Darin this game, but I'm not so sure it's really worth it for Michael because he doesn't have to worry about Lingering Souls.
Sure.
And he has Geist Saint Traft, so it looks like he's probably going to bring in Geist Saint Traft, Supreme Verdict, and we know he brings in Spell Snares. And he has 4 copies of Force of Will in his main. And, that card's not very good in this matchup.
Yeah, with how grindy this matchup is, that's not the way that you want to go. You can't afford to use 2 cards, especially with how good the blue cards are, too.
Yeah.
You don't really want to throw one of them away. Speaking of Geist Saint Traft, you see 3 over here on Minard's side as well, and that's what we saw him win that game with. Geist Saint Traft is funny because I think that when you're playing Esper Stoneblade, you know that both players are going to be boarding it in, and you actually need them, just to legend rule the other one.
Yeah.
So you do see that starting to become, the industry standard in sideboards of these Tundra decks. You also find a Gilded Drake to go along 2 Path to Exiles, 3 Surgical Extractions, a Sword of Feast and Famine, a Pithing Needle, a Humility, a Supreme Verdict, and 2 copies of Disenchant. Disenchant almost certainly going to be coming in here. You don't know if Hetrick, is thinking about that card. It's something that can really, really catch him off guard from Minard.
Oh yeah, that's a huge card in this matchup, especially because Michael doesn't really have an Academy Runes, where we've seen other Stoneblade lists have an Academy Runes. That can be huge because a lot of times you're basically all in on a card like Batterskull or Jete, whereas Michael doesn't even have a 2nd copy in the sideboard and he has no way to get it back if Darin actually has an answer for it.
So Disenchant is something that we could see play a pretty big role here in this game 3, but a lot of options to both players. What do they want to sideboard in? What do they want to board out? I would be surprised to see Force of Wills from either side post-board. And then we can see both players maybe try to one-up each other with some of their singletons in their sideboard and in their main deck. So that'll be interesting to watch here as well. As you do see, Minard is going to take a mulligan down to 6 here.
And it looks like we have a turn 1 preordained.
Chase the Mind Sculptor and Batterskull, who pulls to the bottom.
Okay.
All right, tough guy. As you see Hetrick draw a Detention Sphere. Tough to see both those cards go to the bottom of anyone's deck ever.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Darin's deck has Wasteland because he's only 2 colors.
Yep.
So that's, again, pretty good in this matchup.
So you are going to see Hetrick just play a Tundra followed by an Underground Sea. I got to stop calling Taigas Tundras and vice versa, as Minard does have a Mishra's Factory. He's going to sacrifice a Flooded Strand. I think maybe a little Stoneforge Mystic going to start the show here.
And Michael has, I believe, a Detention Sphere and a Vindicate, so he has answers. Although Darin has a Sword of Feast and Famine in his deck after board, which I wouldn't be surprised if he got that instead of the Battle Skull, just in case Michael had a removal spell for Stoneforge. Sword is like a little cheaper card that you can get into play, and you already have a Mishra's Factory in play that you can sort of do the old Inkmoth Nessus equip attacks similar to standard.
Sure.
But it looks like he's going for the Batter Skull.
So now we do see Minard does search up that Batter Skull, passes it back to Hetrick. Hetrick also Pluto Delta for this turn. You see a decent amount of lands in his hand. You do see that Detention Sphere. You do see that Vindicate. And I think that back card in his hand is a Jace the Mind Sculptor, I believe. It's certainly a blue card. And, over the course of a few minutes here, we'll figure out what it is. But as you do see Hetrick figuring out his turn, also one thing to keep in mind here as well, as you see it in the middle of the screen ticking on down, this is no short matchup here.
Oh, yeah.
9:24 on the clock, and going down as Vindicate's going to take care of the Stoneforge Mystic. I can personally attest to getting a draw in an invitational tournament. I got one round one the last time we were here in Atlanta, and while I didn't think it was going to be a big deal then, it made drawing the later rounds of the tournament a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and I wonder if both players are sort of aware of the time.
You're going to see Darin come across here with the Mishra's Factory.
And he's got a Wasteland, so it's unfortunate because I believe he has a Geist, but he doesn't have another white or blue mana. So I think this line is a pretty reasonable line.
The 3-color deck having better mana than the 2-color deck?
It happens.
Who would have thought it? As we do see Darin draw a Brainstorm here, so that's going to certainly be able to undo some things. As he does find a Tundra, one with a Snapcaster Mage, and a Mercadian Mask Counterspell, I think that was.
Yes.
A beautiful artwork on that one. Geist of St. Traff looks like it's going back, along with another mystery card.
I think it's both copies. He has 2 copies of Geist, I believe. Unfortunately, it looks like Jace the Mind Sculptor might be coming down next turn for Michael.
That's what it does look like. As you do see Stoneforge Mystic the draw for the turn, so maybe we'll change some things here.
I still like Jace here.
You like Jace on an open board?
I like Jace on open board. Call me old-fashioned.
Not scared of a Spell Pierce?
I think I take my chances after board. Again, I don't think most players keep in Spell Pierce after board, especially if you're on the play or if you're on the draw. But
as we do see Caracas, and he's going to go Stoneforge Mystic. Yeah. So Stoneforge Mystic is the way that Hetrick is going to go here. He's going to search up Batter Skull, bottom card of his deck from the Preordained, get that underway. You see him shuffling pretty quickly here. I think both players probably cognizant of how much time is left on the clock now.
And I think that's kind of ideal for Darin because, again, I don't think he would have been able to beat a Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Now you're going to see Darin go with a Geist of St. Traff. He's going to pass the turn back. So Hetrick's Detention Sphere, not great right now, as he is going to draw a card, and he finds a Lingering Souls. Tom Martell's invitational card.
Another great card. He's able to, that's a great draw, because he's able to commit an answer to Geist of St. Traff, whereas he's still able to put the Batter Skull into play. So even if Darin does have a Swords to Plowshare or a Disenchant, he's still going to have a way to deal with the Geist of St. Traff.
So you are going to see Hetrick start here with Lingering Souls. 2 Spirit Tokens will come into play here. You're going to see an activation right away. Batter Skull's going to come in, Germ Token in. Hetrick playing much more quickly now.
Yeah. Oh, so it looks like they have a little more time than we expected. But
I think a little less time. Yeah, they have less time.
Less time.
Significantly less, as we are underneath 2 minutes right now.
But again, Batter Skull can end things very quickly.
As you are going to see Lingering Souls tokens and the Batter Skulls come across here. No blocks there from Darin. Darin, again, a little bit stuck on lands here. Hetrick looking at that Jace. He wants to.
Does he wants to. Do we want to flashback Lingering Souls?
He can play around Spell Pierce right now as well, and so he's going to pull the trigger on Jace the Mind Sculptor. Counterspell is going to take care of that. And let's see if he does flashback Lingering Souls.
I think given the amount of time, he has to be a little more aggressive here.
He disagrees. He just passes the turn
Playing
back.
Around Supreme Verdict, perhaps?
A card that these blue, white, and just Stoneblade decks in general do play. Looking at Minard's deck list here, he does have 1 Supreme Verdict in his main, 1 in his sideboard. Can he afford to play around Supreme Verdict right now, though?
Again, there's not that much time, and even if you were to flashback Lingering Souls after Supreme Verdict, I don't think you'd win in this amount of time.
Sure. So we do see Minard put his Geist Trapped in front of that Batter Skull that's attacking. 2 damage will come across. Hetrick is just going to play Polluted Delta and pass. You're going to see Minard play Snapcaster Mage on the end step. You see Spell Pierce was the draw for Hetrick here, so that's going to take care of the Brainstorm. Timely Spell Pierce there for him. As Minard's going to untap, he's going to draw. He draws a Polluted Delta for the turn, so he finally does have the 4th land. The question is, does he have the Supreme Verdict? And it does not look like he does.
Yeah, it looks like we can have a Jace the Mind Sculptor to bounce a Germ token, but the problem with that is that Hetrick has enough mana where he can just return the Batter Skull and then replay it off the Stoneforge.
So now we're going to see a Brainstorm here. You see Source of Plowshare, Island, and Polluted Delta are the draws, so he certainly has the lands to cast his spells now. The question is, can he convert those spells in time, get them into play, and actually let them have an impact on this game?
It looks like Darin might be able to play for the draw right here, because it is turn 0.
So Hetrick will have 1, 3, and 5.
We'll have 1, 3, and 5. He has a Plowshare. He Plowshares the Batter Skull on his turn. It'll be close. He has ways to, yeah, it's going to be close, but I think he might be able to play for the draw right here.
And if you're Hetrick, I think it's time to pull the trigger on that Lingering Souls in the graveyard and try to win this game.
Yeah,
I think you got to go for it.
I think he had to do it last turn.
I think with Hetrick right now, he can't lose the game, but he can certainly win.
Yeah.
So he's going to draw a card. Brainstorm is a draw, and that's a pretty gosh darn good one. You see 3 fetch lands over there for Hetrick. And Hetrick can slow down a little bit here as we are in turns. Hetrick does have turn 1, 3, and 5 of extra turns, so Minard can't win, but he can play for a draw here. So we'll see if he's going to be able to do that, and we'll see if Hetrick can actually outright win this game. As you see him slow down dramatically here, he's going to cast this Brainstorm and really think about how he's going to go about winning this game in time.
Wow, another Mystic. So can Hetrick get an Umuzawa Jitte right here? He can play the Stoneforge Mystic. I think he can play the Stoneforge Mystic, get a Jitte, cast it, and equip, which would go a long way in being able to kill Darin much faster.
You see Hetrick still holding on to the Detention Sphere too. Really looking for a good spot to be able to use that. Because I think that's something that can actually catch Minard off guard here.
It looks like you're just going to play a second Mistress Factory and maybe just start attacking with the Mistress Factories.
As you do see Hetrick, he's going to sacrifice both Polluted Deltas, moving him down to a measly 26 life.
Short of Supreme Verdict, even Supreme Verdict at this point, I think, isn't going to be good enough because of the 2 Mistress Factories.
Yeah, it might be off now because of the Mad Lands. Something that, that's something that we haven't seen a ton of in this deck yet. The value lands that this deck can play, and this is something I talked to Tom about. You do see Karakas often, you do see Academy Ruins often, and sometimes you maybe see 1 Mistress Factory. I'm not used to seeing 2 of those in this deck.
No.
And it gives them a nice different angle of attack. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think it's surprising you don't see it happen more often because I think people are maybe a little afraid of getting wastelanded, but the deck's already vulnerable to wasteland, so, and it doesn't look like that it really has too many color issues. So if you can afford to play cards like Mistress Factory, give you a little more threats. Seems reasonable. And
so now what you do see is you see Hetrick move his Batter Skull over to one of his Lingering Spirit tokens. He does attack in the air there. He also attacks with the other one, so he's going to be able to come across for 6 here. It's going to move Minard, I believe, down to 4, but we'll get confirmation on what the life total is here. And I think we might see it, assuming that Michael did tap correctly, of flashing back a Lingering Souls here and trying to finish it off in the air.
And yep, looks like he's putting him on a 1-turn clock now.
So now you're going to see 2 more Spirit tokens join the fray here. And as you said, I think that even if Supreme Verdict does come off the top here for Darin, the factories are what's going to wrap it up now. So we're going to move on to turn 2 of extra turns here. Minard is going to draw a card. It is...
And Darin doesn't have... I don't believe Darin has Lingering Souls of his own because he's blue white. So.
It is an island for the turn. You do see Darin's hand, you see a Batter Skull, you see Snapcaster Mage, you see Jace, you see a Swords to Plowshares, but it does not look like it's going to be enough to be able to work him to this draw. He's going to have to get a little fancy schmancy with that Swords to Plowshares and that Snapcaster Mage to be able to get this done.
Well, he can cast the Jace the Mind Sculptor and bounce the token with the equipment on it, and he'll still have a Plowshare. So depending on how aggressive Michael is, he might be able to survive 1 more turn.
And so it looks like that's the line he's going to take, as he's going to go off with a Jace the Mind Sculptor here. You see the die, it's going to start on 3 counters. It's going to tick its way down to 2. And yep, he's going to bounce the one that is equipped with Batterskull.
So if Michael just makes the same line where he just equips Batterskull and doesn't have an answer to the Plowshare. Oh wow!
Jace the Mind Sculptor, the draw
so
for Hetrick.
That's fine because he's not going to be able to activate the Jace because the other one's in play. So Darin, Michael still probably makes the same line where he just equips, and Darin has a Plowshare. So at worst, I think Darin probably just goes to 2 life this turn.
As we're going to see Hetrick, it looks like he's going to cast the Detention Sphere.
So maybe he wants to deal with the Jace, or is he dealing with the Snapcaster?
So let's see what he's going to target with the Detention Sphere.
So he's targeting the Snapcaster,
okay.
And it looks like he's going to attack with the Mistress Factors. Yep.
All right, so he's going to get in the club this way. And so you see a blocker and a Swords. I think that gets through 4 every single way, right? Geist gets in front of a factory, Swords takes out a factory, 4 damage comes across, so it looks like it's going to be 4 damage every way. It is. Minard comes to the same conclusion, and Michael Hetrick, in turn 3 of extra turns, with Esper Stoneblade, takes down Darin Minard and his blue-white Stoneblade deck 2-1.